Be Dr. Scalabrine for us and diagnose Luka based upon your experience or what you know about calf strains.
I hate calves, adductors, hamstrings. Like, those are the ones that, growing muscle, like, they're the ones that they bother you because you can't, like, if you get hit in the arm, if you get, like, even like an ankle, you can kind of, like, play through a sore ankle. The problem with those injuries is they don't bring you back if you feel it. You can't be like, you know what, I feel like I'm 50%, I'm 70%, I'm 90%. You're going to be 100%, and then you got to test and all that stuff. So I don't know the severity of it. I just know, like, when it comes to organizations, like, they're really cautious about those areas because they don't want, calf strain turned to a calf tear or anything like that, because at that point it would be over. So I think that what I am optimistic about is I think the Dallas Mavericks could. I'm not a fan right now of the Utah Jazz and the way that they play. I don't think they close games out in the fourth quarter. So I actually think, from a standpoint of basketball, outside of the Luka thing, I think that the Mavs could actually beat the Utah Jazz, even if they don't have Luka for, let's call it, for the first 4 games.
Huh.
Wow.
Okay. I'll get more on that in a sec. What was your take, though, on the Mavs leaving him in there with an 18-point lead late in that third quarter? Like, how have you seen, and how do you think that your team should handle, playing a guy final game of the season when everything's basically wrapped up?
I think it's more about like their long-term plan. And, like, remember, these guys have sports science people, and they come up with a minute, and they come up with all this stuff going into it. It's not just coach. It's not like the way we look at, coaches. Just throw him in there and, like, oh, he's playing really good, play him some more. It's all, like, mapped out, and how do they want to handle it? Last game of the season, they have a week off. Like, everything is mapped out. So I don't personally, I know this becomes a big topic, sports radio or in newspapers or whatever. To me, I never question, like, how coaches play guys in the minutes that they play, because it is like they have millions and millions of dollars invested into getting the most out of each guy, and they have a plan going into it. So I never really get into the minutes of a player anymore, because I think it's already figured out at a much higher level than my opinion.
What else have you not liked about the way that Utah has been playing?
I don't think so. At times when they're spreading the floor, and their offense has a high rating, and so when they're spreading it, they drive you and they kick and they shoot the three. Like, I'm all good with those possessions, right? But I don't think if you watch the first quarter or the fourth quarter, they do the same thing throughout. And I think, like, there's a feel to the game that if you miss the last 8 threes, you shouldn't come down and jack up a 35-footer. So, like, if for them, if Dallas can defend the three and make it tough and get back into the airspace and read the gather. So the gather is when the guy picks the ball up and he's about to make a pass, or, even a one-handed pass. If you can read the gather and get really good at building out to the shooters, you'll be fine, and you'll be able to take away, all their three-point shooters. And the thing about Rudy Gobert, who I love defensively, but you can expose him if you can get him out on the perimeters. Like, you've seen it before last year with the Clippers. And then the last thing, this is the most wild thing of all. And you guys experienced a little bit of this with Porzingis, even though I think in Washington he's better. Like, Porzingis at his size can get a switch. He can have a guard on him, and he can't score in the post. That puts a lot of pressure when you can't take advantage of switching defenses when you're a big. And I don't think Rudy Gobert does. He does a really good job of going over the top, but you can't dump the ball into him in the post and have him do something about it. He's just not good enough to score, and he doesn't hit the offensive glass good enough, when he does get a small on him. So you have a lot of things that you can do where Utah is just going to play one way. So I think Jason Kidd, the Mavs, I think that they'll be able to figure out Utah pretty easily.
Former NBA player Brian Scalabrine joining us on the Diamond Factory Hotline to preview the NBA playoffs. You've been making picks as well. You're doing Celtics calls and you're making picks. What was your pick for this series? And did you change it based upon the injury news?
Yeah, so I thought Utah was dead man walking, and if Luka played in Dallas, I think this is a really good year, and I think that they understand They got to get out of the first round. They got to win, and if they win, then they have an opportunity. And every game that they play in this series will affect their ability to beat Phoenix, or if they can beat Phoenix. So early on I had the Dallas Mavericks winning in 5, but based off of Luka, let's say he sits out 4 games. I have no idea how much he's going to be out because this calf thing is weird. But if he sits out 4 games, then I could think this could be a 6 or 7 game series. So that's kind of how I look at this. But I do think even if he doesn't play, I think the Dallas Mavericks will beat the Utah Jazz, even if he doesn't play a single minute in the series.
Wow.
I think Utah's dead man walking. I think they're going to blow it up this offseason. I think they're going to try to reshuffle the deck, and they might I just feel like something's about to happen because there's a lot of expectations for Ryan Smith, who just bought the team. They thought they were going to be a championship level, and you just watch the season and you realize that they're not. So I really, no matter what happens, I think Dallas will get out of this series now. Moving forward, that's a different conversation. And somehow, if they can sweep, the Utah Jazz, then they'll have at least. I think they give them a chance to beat the Phoenix Suns. But him being in a grueling 6 or 7 game series is going to be hard to back that up and beat Phoenix.
Wow, you were a teammate of kids. What impact has he had on this team?
I think it's funny. I like this comment that he made about coaching. He said, a lot of times in life, as you guys know, you do a job and you get better at the job and you learn what matters, what doesn't matter. The kid was hard nosed on the Milwaukee Bucks. He pushed those guys, and in Brooklyn it was a different situation because they had a lot older team. I think the biggest thing that kid I thought he learned over the years is what not to overreact to, and then what's it like. You got to pick your poison when it comes to coaching. And when I watch him, I think that he lets some things go, and that's fine. That's part of it. And as I watch the Dallas Mavericks as they grow, his empowerment of Brunson, I look at the way that Spencer Dinwiddie is playing now compared to Washington. I think that's important because when you play with a star, you're always kind of second guessing. Am I being aggressive enough? Am I doing enough? Should I give the ball back to the star? And I think that their team as a whole has appropriate aggressiveness. And one of my favorite players in the league, Sneak, right, is Dorian Finney-Smith. And I don't think people realize how good he is defensively. I think he competes on every possession. The way he spaces the floor, he's always in the right spot. The way that he cuts, I just think that when I watch him play, I think Jason Kidd has got. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Carlisle, but I just feel like Jason Kidd has gotten a lot out of him and helping him become that. He's not a star, but he's the way to play off of Luka. That's exactly what you want a player to play when you have a guy like Luka Doncic.